All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the New Jersey Carbon Dioxide Trading Program, or RGGI Public Stakeholder Meeting. I'm Anthony Bavacqua, Chief of the Department's Bureau of Climate Change and Clean Energy and the Rule Manager for this program. Next slide, please. Great. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on our website. By attending this meeting, you consent to being recorded. Online participants will be muted during the presentation portion of this meeting. We will discuss how to comment during the stakeholder input portion of this webinar. Please be respectful in the chat and keep comments on topic to ensure we have meaningful feedback on this rule development. Although we are not incorporating a time limit on input comments today, if you choose to speak, we do ask that participants be courteous of others interested in providing input as to allow time for all. The objective of this public meeting is to discuss the readoption of the New Jersey CO2 budget trading rule, which directs the state's participation in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, or RGGI. We will provide an overview of the RGGI program, describe the outcomes of the third program review, and discuss the subsequent program design changes that would take effect. We will conclude with a facilitated public input session, and we'll open the floor for input comments by unmuting participants from the queue. The queue will be based on the order in which participants raise their virtual hand using the icon in Teams. We will also be accepting written input comments for this presentation for a period of 30 days after today. There will be an opportunity for additional formal written comments when the rule is formally proposed, which is intended for this spring. Next slide, please. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, or RGGI, is a market-based emissions trading system. It is a cooperative effort among 10 states in the Northeast, including Connecticut, Delaware, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Participating states maintain individual CO2 budget trading rules to facilitate participation in a regional RGGI program. These states represent a robust segment of the U.S. economy. For example, if all RGGI states were a hypothetical country, its GDP would be approximately $5 trillion, making it the third largest economy in the world, behind the U.S. and China. At its core, RGGI is a tool with the objective of reducing carbon dioxide emissions from the power sector. Electricity generation is second only to transportation in contributing greenhouse gas emissions. This program specifically regulates grid supply fossil fuel generating units with a nameplate capacity of 25 megawatts or greater. The market-based RGGI program design enables the reduction of carbon emissions at the lowest cost. This regional approach to emissions reductions is more cost-effective than individual state strategies alone. The auction of RGGI allowances sends market signals in the energy economy that encourages investment in cleaner, more resilient energy technology in the region. Furthermore, auctions generate proceeds that are strategically invested at the state level in programs that further reduce emissions, lower costs, and benefit consumers. Next slide, please. The RGGI program design is composed of regional and state-specific elements connected through consensus and collaboration. States work together to develop the RGGI model rule. The model rule is updated and improved over time through iterative program reviews. States adopt their own individual CO2 budget trading rules consistent with the model rule. This establishes participation in the regional auctions, determines compliance requirements, and sets state CO2-based budget or regional cap contributions over time. The regional cap is based on emissions from regulated entities in the states and fluctuates over time based on emissions reduction goals set by the states. The regional emissions cap has historically declined year over year, following trajectories or rates of decline defined in the model rule. The first and second program reviews resulted in 45% and 30% reductions, respectively. And those were effective in 2014, and the second being 2020 through 2030. The declining cap sends price signals to regulated entities, also known as RGGI CO2 budget sources. The cost of compliance is less for lower emitting sources as compared to units with lower efficiencies. Sources are required to possess allowances equal to their CO2 emissions over a 3-year control period and hold allowances equal to 50% of their emissions during interim control periods. The cost of compliance is transferred to proceeds through quarterly auctions in the regional RGGI allowance market, where regulated entities purchase CO2 allowances. One RGGI CO2 allowance is equal to 1 ton of CO2 emissions. Regulated entities are required to comply with RGGI rules and regulations based on the state in which they are located, but can purchase allowances originated by any state and offered for sale in the quarterly auctions or in the secondary market. The secondary allowance market and banked allowances provide flexibility and can reduce costs of compliance. States, however, only receive proceeds from their own allowance budget contributions when offered for sale in quarterly auctions. What makes this regional program a cap and invest system rather than a traditional cap and trade is that states invest auction proceeds monies locally into strategic programs to further mitigate climate change, drive energy system improvements, and reduce costs to consumers. Next slide, please. RGGI successfully reduces carbon pollution while supporting economic growth and grid resilience. Over the first 4 control periods between 2009 and 2020, participating states realized a 53% reduction in power sector emissions when comparing 2020 to the 2006 through 2008 baseline period average, while the regional economy continued to grow. This is reflected in the chart where the blue line represents carbon emissions and the orange line represents per capita GDP from 2008 to 2023 within the RGGI region. Total economic benefits of RGGI between 2009 and 2020 are estimated to be over $5 billion. Investments in peak demand reduction and energy efficiency improve reliability, reduce emissions, and lower consumer bills. RGGI also provides significant co-benefits, including those around human health, supporting the transition to a cleaner energy and transportation systems, and improving natural systems by bolstering blue and green carbon sinks through wetland and forest restoration. Next slide, please. Since rejoining RGGI in 2020, New Jersey has received more than $1 billion in allowance proceeds, which continue to be strategically invested throughout the state through cross-agency funding initiatives and on-the-ground programs that target climate mitigation, environmental justice, clean transportation, energy efficiency, and growth in clean energy technology application and workforce. This has resulted in significant lifetime energy bill savings, energy use reductions, and less fuel consumed. Additionally, more than 200 acres of wetlands and forests have been restored, 800 electric vehicles incentivized, and an estimated $75 million in saved healthcare costs. This is how our RGGI program simultaneously curbs carbon emissions in the power sector while catalyzing a better future for the state. Next slide. Thank you. The New Jersey Global Warming Solutions Act directs the state's participation in RGGI and guides the use of proceeds by establishing the CO2 budget trading rule and the Global Warming Solutions Fund rule. In 2018, Governor Murphy's Executive Order Number 7 directed the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and the Board of Public Utilities to take all necessary measures to assure the state's full RGGI participation. This mandate was achieved in 2020, resulting in New Jersey recommencing auction participation and realizing benefits from proceeds once more. The Global Warming Solutions Fund rule determines funding lanes and other requirements for strategic investment of auction proceeds in the state. Although not the focus of today's discussion, more information, including recordings of our strategic funding plan stakeholder meetings and both RGGI investment and emissions dashboards, can be found on our website linked at the bottom of the screen. The New Jersey CO2 budget trading rule prescribes our participation through the consistent adoption of the RGGI model rule. Next slide, please. States are committed to comprehensive and periodic review of their CO2 budget trading programs to evaluate success, impacts, and design elements. The third program review began in the fall of 2021 and was completed in July of this year. The RGGI states drew on electricity sector and economic modeling, customer bills analysis, public input, and lessons learned since the second program review to consider possible changes to the model rule and to their state CO2 budget trading programs. 6 public meetings and listening sessions were held during this period, hosted by RGGI Inc. and facilitated and supported by multiple state agency staff. The subsequent updated model rule and associated program design changes are the result of careful considerations of technical analyses and stakeholder input across the region. The objectives of these changes include strengthening the regional emissions cap through 2037, which would start in 2027, provide stability and certainty to market participants, confirms states' long-term commitments to energy affordability and reliability, public health, and the environment, ensure access to sufficient RGGI allowances to meet energy demand, and strengthen price protection for consumers, to further complement state investment of proceeds centered around lowering electricity bills and leveraging economic benefits realized through energy efficiency, renewable energy, and beneficial electrification. Next slide, please. Aligned with the multi-state objective to strengthen the regional cap, the RGGI regional base CO2 allowance budget and trajectory would be set to reduce in 2 stages. The first is a 10.5% annual reduction in years 2027 through 2033. The second is a 3% reduction in years 2034 through 2037. Additionally, starting in 2027, the program would no longer offer or award offset allowances, although offset allowances that have already been awarded could still be used for compliance where applicable. As per the objective to address market stability and sufficient allowance access, the model rule adjusts the cost containment reserve, emissions containment reserve, and minimum reserve price to reduce price volatility, thus serving as stability mechanisms. The single cost containment reserve would be transitioned to a 2-tiered CCR, cost containment reserve. Additionally, the minimum reserve price would be increased and replace the current emissions containment reserve, or ECR. Next slide, please. In 2027, the regional emissions cap would be reduced from 75 million tons to 69 million tons. Thereafter, a rate of decline of 10.5% of this 2025 budget annually, or 8.5 million tons per year through 2033. For years 2034 through 2037, the rate of decline is decreased to 3% of the 2025 budget, or 2.4 tons per year. The rationale of this soft landing or dogleg is centered around reliability of the energy system and consumer affordability. As time progresses, further reductions in CO2 emissions from remaining sources become more challenging to achieve. This chart represents these changes in addition to the market mechanisms, which we will discuss in the following slide. As you can see, the light blue line represents the current regional base cap. The dark blue line represents what the updated cap trajectory will be. The green line represents the termination of the Emissions Containment Reserve, or ECR. The orange line represents the first Cost Containment Reserve, or CCR Tier 1, while the yellow line represents the second CCR tier. Next slide, please. Thank you. 12. So this table represents the same data shown in the previous chart. As seen in the top left corner, the regional cap would be reduced by 8.5 million tons from 2026 to 2027 to just under 70 million tons. This trend continues to 2033. Then the trajectory would be reduced by 2.3 million tons annually until 2037. After that period, the emissions cap remains constant until future program reviews or adjustments are determined. No adjustments are made to the bank of allowances throughout this entire period. Moving to the right, the minimum reserve price schedule is shown on the third column. This represents the lowest price in which allowances may be sold at auction. The new minimum reserve price will be $9 in 2027 and increase by 7% annually at a fixed rate moving forward. Rather than a fixed number of allowances being withheld under the current ECR, if this auction price falls below this minimum reserve price, all allowances will be withheld. Both Tier 1 and Tier 2 CCR allowances will be 11,746,358, starting in 2027, moving forward unless adjusted after future program reviews. The Tier 1 CCR trigger price would be set at $19.50 in 2027. The Tier 2 CCR trigger price would be set at $29.25 in 2027. Both Tier 1 and Tier 2 CCR trigger prices will increase by 7% annually thereafter. Relative to the current cap in 2025, if all first-tier CCR allowances are released and sold in every year, the regional cap will be reduced by 74% by 2037. If all first and second-tier CCR allowances are released and sold in every year, the regional cap will be reduced by 60% by 2037. Both scenarios do not include the existing bank of allowances, which provide additional flexibility for compliance. Next slide. The model rule also reflects updated definitions, references, and monitoring, reporting, and record-keeping requirements language. Additionally, some references were updated for clarity and to be consistent with the changes being discussed. Furthermore, the participating states, including New Jersey, are committed to commence a fourth program review no later than 2028 to evaluate these changes early on after they would be implemented. This will provide opportunity to address needs for further changes and/or adjustments to the design on shorter timelines. Also, unsold allowances, the participating states commit to removing from circulation all standard RGGI CO2 allowances, which are offered for sale but remain unsold at the end of each auction. These changes support the RGGI states' overall greenhouse gas reduction goals through a market-based system that has been shown to be cost-effective and economically beneficial. Next slide. In conclusion, RGGI is a successful tool to reduce carbon emissions in the power sector while driving state strategic investments and economic benefits. The program design changes discussed today strengthen the regional program, supporting more greenhouse gas reductions in this targeted portion of the energy sector, while bolstering market stability mechanisms to mitigate allowance price volatility and associated impacts on the energy market. Modeling results indicate the impacts of these program design changes to energy consumers are minimal and provide economy-wide benefits, particularly when strategic investments of proceeds supports energy efficiency and renewable energy growth. All of the participating RGGI states are committed to starting the fourth program review on a shorter timeline to facilitate early evaluation of the proposed design changes discussed here today. Next slide, please. This graphic represents the intended rule adoption timeline. We will be accepting verbal stakeholder input comments momentarily and written input for considerations 30 days from today using the link provided in the chat. In March of 2026, the department intends to formally propose the rule for readoption, which will include another opportunity for formal written public comments. This will put us on a path for the intended rule adoption and design changes to take effect in January of 2027.